On and the Social Democrats, Catherine Murphy.
Minister, since your department pulled the plug on Benefacts, a name which won't be familiar to the public or to many of the public, but it did provide a valuable public service. I've been trying to figure out just exactly what your department has against open, transparent and comprehensive data. Benefacts was set up in 2014 at the request of DEEPR to provide transparency about the financial affairs of Ireland's mammoth €14 billion not-for-profit sector. For the first time, detailed audited financial and governance information on 34,000 non-profit organisations, which have 165,000 employees, was collected and collated in one place. Best of all, the website was open to the public and free to use. One aspect of the work Benefacts did was to provide detailed information to the CSO, which enabled it to fulfil an important statistical reporting required under EU legislation. Ireland had availed of a derogation when it came to supplying detailed information about the not-for-profit sector at Eurostat until September 2017, when we ran out of road and derogation ended. Benefacts was then able to step into the breach and spare the country's blushes by actually providing the CSO with quarterly reports at no charge, with comprehensive data that was cleaned, amalgamated and digitised. We all know there's a huge number of voluntary organisations. Some of those organisations provide health and social care services. Many of them receive substantial financial funding. For the first time, Benefacts enabled the CSO to identify all 779 such entities and their different source of funding. This allowed the CSO to capture all the not HSE income and expenditure for inclusion in the system of health accounts, which ensures estimates on health expenditure in Ireland are comprehensive and accurate. In short, Minister, Benefacts allowed people that used it to follow the money. And now, without warning, the department pulled the plug and has spent $250,000 shutting it down, having spent $6 million of public money setting it up. Its funding has been scrapped, the not-for-profit company has been wound up, its employees have been made redundant, and the website is no longer available. This despite a report commissioned by your department by Indicon stating that the benefits of Benefacts exceeded its costs. They also said that scrapping the service, and I quote, would reduce information which is needed for effective governance. Minister, in whose interest does this serve? Given that we have a huge not-for-profit sector, €14 billion, do you not agree that it's a no-brainer to have detailed, transparent financial information available? It is not too late to reinstate this. There are costs associated with duplicating this service and with not providing the Eurostat with the information that they require.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy Murphy, for raising the issue of Benefacts. I think it's important just to put on the public record that Benefacts was not a public service body, so it wasn't within the public sector family. And to make the point that while the state did provide funding for the organisation for a number of years, the state was not running this particular organisation. It was an external third-party body which did deliver a good service during its lifetime, no question whatsoever in relation to that. But when you are in the position that I am as Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform, and you have a clear recommendation from within your department following an examination that it did not constitute value for money, and that the business case did not stand up in relation to its continued public funding, and it was a matter for Benefacts to identify and source other potential revenue sources to ensure that it could continue in existence. What we did as a department was we consulted with the other government departments who we thought may have a use for the service provided by Benefacts, or indeed a use for the information that it collated and presented on its website, and we were not in a position to find any other public service body or government department that was was in a position to take on the relationship, to fund Benefacts, because in essence they did not see value in it. And so you would be the first deputy to call the accounting officer in deeper before PAC if he had ignored a recommendation to essentially close down over a period of time public funding for this body. As I say, we consult with a whole range of organisations, including the Department of Rural and Community Development, which has a key role in this area. And as you know, there has been significant investment in the charities regulator, where a lot more information now is collated and presented by the regulator, and indeed by the CSO as well. So as Minister, I received a recommendation that it did not constitute value for money any further, and therefore the public funding for a third-party body should be discontinued. That was the essence of it. I do very much believe in open government. I am the Minister who is currently undertaking a comprehensive review of the freedom of information legislation that will, I believe, result in legislation coming before the House in the months ahead that is not about narrowing the scope or restricting the operation of FOI in any way, but indeed is to broaden it out and make sure it operates much more efficiently and meets the needs of service users who want to access public information that is held by government or indeed by other public service bodies.
Minister, we did have the General Secretary of, or the Secretary General of your department in at the Public Accounts Committee, and I did take an opportunity to speak to him about this. And I raised the issue of the report that your department commissioned from Indicon. And before he closed it down, I asked him, had he read that report? And he told me he hadn't, which I thought was quite extraordinary. He said he got a briefing on it. It's not a particularly long report, and I've got to say, reading it wouldn't suggest that the cost outweighed the benefits. In actual fact, it's the opposite. And they cautioned about. This is a report commissioned by your own department. They cautioned about shutting something down like this that you don't have a replacement for. And there's money now being spent at the department, at a very early stage, Department of Rural Affairs, to create an alternative system that is that would be more limited. Your predecessor in your department was glowing about it a couple of years ago. In fact, it's on the record. So I just find this extraordinary that a valuable resource has been dispensed with that provided very comprehensive, transparent information.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy. I didn't come to that debate with any fixed view whatsoever. I received a clear recommendation, which was based on an assessment of value for money and the business case. And the recommendation made to me as Minister was that we could no longer stand over spending public money on a service that was matched by other public bodies. And we reached out to other public bodies, the key ones, some of which you've mentioned, including DRCD, Department of Rural and Community Development, to see if they had a requirement for the information that was being provided by Benefacts. And bear in mind, that is the key line department with overall responsibility for the not-for-profit voluntary charity sector. And they did not see a value in the state continuing to extend resources to a third-party body in that respect, because they felt that they were doing a similar thing. And my own preference is always that that kind of work and that service should be provided from within the public sector. And so that was the thrust of the recommendation I received. I did read all the supporting documentation, and I supported the conclusion and therefore made the decision.
Margaret.